They're just trying to sell you diversity. They're not trying to give you diversity, they're trying to sell you diversity. It's not the passing of the mantle that's the issue. It's because of some kind of need to use a big name to help represent a black person. But you don't need to do it that way. What you do is take the black person and make him into a big name. What is going on YouTube? Double O here, and yes, Marvel's Ironheart is finally coming out next month, I believe, and this show's broken a record. The show's coming out in a month, and this is the first time they've released a trailer for it. Everyone's been talking about how Disney's trying to bury this, and it's just been in the back burner for so long. They know it's trash. They know the whole landscape of what the audiences want has changed. Was it ever what they thought audience wanted to begin with, you know? Because maybe they've only just woken up and realized, wow, the shit we're making isn't what people want. And that shit is basically race swaps, gender swaps, mantle swaps. And ever since all new, all different Marvel, they didn't look at the sales of the comics and think this is probably not a good idea. They probably thought it could translate well to general public, and it didn't. Well, I've already seen the trailer, but we're just going to go through it. We're not going to do like a whole reaction. We're just going to talk about why this is terrible. And look at the dislike. Dislike ratio is crazy. From executive producer Ryan Coogler, they put his name there big for you to see, to make sure, look, the guy that made Sinners made this too. The guy that made Black Panther 1 made this too. And Black Panther 2, I know there's a lot of people that aren't very fond of Black Panther 2, but it was still half decent. I think there's quite a fan base for Black Panther 2. I thought it was okay. I loved 1 better, but 2 had some good stuff in it, but it was kind of a tough movie to make with, you know, the death of Chadwick Boseman. Marvel, understandably at the time, thinking it was a good idea just to kill off T'Challa and replace it with Shuri, especially since there's precedents for it in the comics with Shuri. So anyway, this isn't a Wakanda Forever review, but I think some of the hate for Wakanda Forever is a little overblown. But yeah, yeah, director of Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. That's hilarious to me, because why wouldn't you put the original Black Panther here? Why wouldn't you put Creed or Sinners? You know, this is probably not his best work, you know, or even Fruitville Station. I don't care about all this bit, like when she's in the elevator. I couldn't care less about all this part. It's like a waste of a whole minute, man. Damn. People have been calling this guy Terrence Howard Light. So, is it going to be her roadie?
Riri, I see you. I see you're fed up, waiting to be acknowledged for your greatness.
Waiting to be acknowledged for your greatness. Think about that for a second.
You are not the first genius at MIT.
How come you're not working at one of those fancy tech firms?
After my internship abroad.
She was the worst part of Black Panther Forever, man. I remember watching it thinking, this is so annoying. Maybe I'm a bit biased because I never liked the idea of her in the comics in the first place. Like, Riri Williams was literally created by a white man because he had black stepdaughters. He had black stepdaughters and he wanted to create a character for them. And then you decide to just ride off the coattails of a more popular white hero, and then you thought that was going to work somehow. I don't understand what people don't understand about mantles. Like, yes, mantles can work in comics and TV or whatever, but what you need to understand about mantles is there's a specific use for them. You can't use a mantle to build up a brand new character and think they can just take over like that. It's not going to work. You can do it temporarily. Like, Rhodey was Iron Man for 20 issues in the Marvel Comics, and then he became War Machine. But the only reason Rhodey works is because he became his own person. He had his own identity at some point. He wasn't just a replacement for Tony Stark, because no one can ever, even back then, no one can ever replace a character like Tony Stark. Maybe because back then he was C-list, B-list, it might have worked. But if you're trying to replace someone that's iconic or an A-lister, it ain't going to happen. Especially when people can see you're doing it for some kind of political representation reason, rather than an actual storyline reason where it makes sense, where it's a legacy, where the character's related to the original character. Like, if it was Morgan Stark, for example, or even the kid from Iron Man 3 that clearly has a relationship with Tony, like, that would make more sense because there's something there, you know? And they haven't got their own identity, like Falcon. Falcon dropped his identity to take Captain America's identity, which was stupid as well, because it's like, Why would you drop your own identity that you've already built for yourself just to take over your friend's one? It's weird. It's like if Rhodey already was War Machine and then he dropped himself to be Iron Man, that would be stupid. But because he made his own thing as War Machine, he's War Machine, you know? Mantles, they can only really work if the character that they're taking the identity from already isn't popular themselves, you know? Like Flash, for example. Flash is popular character, but when you have Wally West, Barry Allen, those secret identities aren't as popular as like Bruce Wayne, Tony Stark, Clark Kent, especially Jay Carrick. Did people even know that Jay Carrick was the first Flash? Most people don't even know that, you know? No one even knew who that was until it was Barry Allen, and then it was, you know? Mantle swap can work if the character's unknown, but Iron Man, Riri didn't stand a chance, man. They're setting us up to fail with this shit, and that's the problem, man. You can't do it. You can't do it.
I
like
want to build something undeniable, something
Important.
Iconic. Everyone's been making fun of this line, saying how Riri saying I want to build something iconic, and saying that, well, how can you do something iconic when it's already been done by Tony Stark? That's not even the best argument for this. What the issue here is, because like she is building something iconic. She's building an Iron Man suit. What the problem is, what she's basically saying is, I want to build something that's already been done before, that's already iconic, and take it for myself. That's basically what it sounds like she's saying here, which is stupid. She's saying it all proud and like as if she's the first to do it, when you're just basically taking something that's already been done. It's like me saying, I want to create something amazing. I want to create something brilliant. I want to create something iconic, and I want to take Stan Lee's Spider-Man and make a movie out of it, and that'll be my, you know, magnum opus. My magnum opus is going to be a movie that I made of a character that someone else has already invented and everybody knows is already made popular. Like, it's just, it doesn't make sense. She's saying it like, and then if you take out the fact that she's taking Tony Stark's thing and saying this iconic as if the way she's saying it all proud that she made it up herself, even take that away, her story is just to create something cool, show how cool she is and how badass she is and how important she is, like the other guy said. Like, Iron Man didn't create the Iron Man suit to be iconic or to be important. Spider-Man didn't become Spider-Man to be iconic or important. You know, the Fantastic Four aren't the Fantastic Four to be great and amazing. This sounds like a villain, you know? Superheroes are superheroes because they want to help. They want to help people that can't help themselves. They want to stop evil. They want to maybe get revenge or something. Like she's just trying to create something just to create it, you know? And that's fine because people do that in real life, like, you know, when people invent stuff, right? But she's just inventing an Iron Man suit for what? Why? Like, are you gonna fight? Why do you want to fight? What are you fighting for? You know, that's what I don't understand. It's like this is what she was like in the comics as well. In fact, the comics probably make a little bit more sense. At least in the comics, she was annoyed how Tony Stark was like had privilege or whatever, and she wanted to compete with him. At least there was some kind of goal or motivation there, even though it was stupid. She doesn't even acknowledge Tony Stark's existence. She doesn't even mention his name once, which we'll watch the exclusive first look or whatever it is that Disney put out alongside this. They tried to separate her from Tony. I understand why they're doing it because of the criticism they've got about race swaps and mantle swaps. That's what everyone's been talking about, but it is so miscalculated. They always take, I don't know what is wrong with Hollywood. They take information in and they process it and they realize, oh shit, we have fucked up. And then their solution is always worse. They listen to the problems, they listen to the complaints. They don't seem to listen to people that give you solutions. And to be fair to Disney, there are a lot of idiots on YouTube and a lot of what people would call grifters that like to complain but don't give solutions. And that's probably all the things that Disney, and those gets millions of views, and that's probably the stuff Disney sees. So they hear the complaints but don't even know how to fix it, you know, without seeming racist or something.
I can give you the tools to help you carry out your vision. But anyone who's ever accomplished anything iconic in life has had to do some questionable things to get it done.
Anybody that's ever accomplished anything iconic in life, I can give you the tools to help you carry out what's her vision? You know, anything that's maybe if you watch it, maybe it'll make sense.
Things.
But that's the problem. You're not selling me to watch this. I don't even want to watch this. I never liked this character to begin with, so I was always out because I know who this character is. I know she's from all new Marvel, whatever it's called, and I hated that whole thing. The whole concept of it was trash. So I wouldn't even have time for this. I'm just giving you my thoughts on it. You know, whereas other people that don't know who Riri Williams is, that are probably more open-minded than I would be as a fan of the comics and stuff, the people that would give this a chance, I don't think you're selling it to them, because they'll watch this and just see Iron Man ripoff, especially after we've gone through all this shit of mantles, race swaps, gender swaps. Recently, Snape's been race swapped and nobody likes it. And people will just see this as another version of that. Your job now is to sell this show to those people that will give this a chance. And you're just saying that she's going to be iconic. She's going to have a vision. And she's going to do things to get this vision, or to be... What vision? What's her goal? What are her motivations? Why is she angry? Why is she building an Iron Man suit? Why does it look so much like Tony's suit but not mentioning his name? These are the things people are going to be thinking about watching this, and they're just going to be like, what the fuck is this shit?
To get it done.
What will you do, Riri?
You've bitten off a...
See how she's dancing with money here? Like, this is interesting because, okay, it's showing does she want money? I know in the comics she was trying to rob or something. I don't know what she was doing. Is she trying to sell technology to get money? There's at least there's some story there. And then she could learn from that. Kind of like Spider-Man when he was trying to make money by being a wrestler using his powers. That makes sense. It's very similar to Spider-Man, actually, a bit almost a copycat storyline if that's the goal. But I feel like they're not showing enough of this. They should be showing this, that I want to make money. The trailer should be like, not I want to do something iconic. The trailer should be, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out the hood, or whatever, man. I gotta do well in MIT. But she's already had like the richest like community in the whole of MCU. You know, Wakanda like back her. Like, why is she still struggling? That's what I'm like. Anyway, I'm making my own story up now for this. I don't even know if that's the story.
You've bitten off a hell of a lot more than you can chew. I could chew a lot.
See, look, even this scene is literally a copycat of the scene in Iron Man where Iron Man lifts his leg up to catch what is that flies to his leg.
Put you a lot.
She flies just like Iron Man with the weird arm thing that he does, and then there's no mention of him. The only mention of Iron Man is how they think Riri's better than him in interviews, and how Robert Downey Jr. apparently gave his thumbs up to this in real life, not in the story. I'm sure they're going to mention it.
You know nothing about this man. You're gonna end up dead or in jail.
This is so much bigger than that.
Look at this scene. This scene is everything wrong with what Marvel's doing. Look. It's literally just Iron Man with some random black girl in there. That's what people are going to see, because the normies don't know who the fuck this is. All they're going to see is Iron Man stuff, one of the most popular, if not the most popular character in the MCU, and just some random black girl doing it with no mention of him. And people are just going to be like, what the fuck is going on? You know? Like, what is this Rhodey's daughter? Like, people are like, what the hell's going on? Is this girl related to Rhodey? There's no mention of Rhodey either. I'm just thinking from a normie perspective looking at this, and especially now that normies are getting a bit more clued on to all this kind of stuff where people are just remaking the same shit but with race swap and a gender swap, and people are just starting to see how vapid and how lazy that is now. Normies are starting to see that. That's probably why Marvel was really trying to just put this in the back burner somewhere, because they know people are seeing that now, but they've already put money into this. They've already probably got a contract that they have to release this, so they're just pushing it out there. Maybe it does well, that would be crazy. But yeah, this is everything wrong with fucking Marvel right now, man. This is the symbolism of some random character that's got no build-up, no backstory, not built up properly in the MCU at all, and the comic books, just recreated randomly in 2016, and does everything that a legend before her has done, you know? And they expect that to sell. Like, these people are supposed to be intelligent. They went to universities. I don't understand how they thought this was going to ever work like this. It doesn't work like this. Especially when you overdo it. The whole all new, all different was just overblown crap of just race swaps, gender swaps. There was a Chinese version of Hulk. There's a female version of Thor. There's a black version of Captain America. There's a black version of Spider-Man. It's just like a rebranded bootleg version of everything that was popular before it. And you really think people buy into that without no story, no lore, no build up, no development, no character development. You advertise the fact that there's an Asian Hulk, for example, before you even tell the story of why this Asian Hulk becomes the Hulk. You know, and it's just so stupid. They're just trying to sell you diversity. They're not trying to give you diversity. They're trying to sell you diversity.
A shady bunker.
My bunker's not shady. Would a shady bunker have that on the wall?
It's literally above a crate of self-guided missiles.
I'm returning those.
Okay, anyway. Let's go check out did they quickly upload other stuff to avoid this? I don't know. Thunderbolts quickly. They quickly uploaded the Thunderbolts.
I got into it.
So they got Ryan Coogler. Look at this, got crazy dislikes as well. You can see that shit. They got Ryan Coogler to talk about this film, and it sounds like he's reading off a script.
Going to comic book shops. I was really big on X-Men and all of the offshoots, like X-Factor and Wolverine. When Ironheart came out, I remember the buzz around the industry. I was really excited.
There was no buzz. The only people that were talking about Ironheart were YouTubers that didn't like her and YouTubers that were defending her. I didn't hear any normie even know what the fuck Ironheart was.
I was really excited. In 2016, Brian Michael Bendis, a really famous creative in the comic book world.
Brian Michael Bendis is that guy. He created Miles Morales, and he tried to do the same thing with Riri Williams. Oh, I've managed to create this black character that the movies made famous because the movies completely revamped him and had to add a whole bunch of other Spider-Men to make it even passable for normies to get into. Because Miles Morales, on his own, strictly on his own, probably would be in the same issue Riri's in right now, especially if that came out first. The Spider-Verse movies are just really well done because they have so many other Spider-Men involved as well. They have the actual Peter Parker Spider-Man there to guide him, you know? Which is one of the major issues with Riri Williams, is that there's no Iron Man there. She's taking all his thing without him, without acknowledging the legacy of Iron Man. That make no sense. But yeah, Brian Michael Bendis, like I said earlier in the video, is just, I hate the way he creates diversity. Terrible. Even the fact that Miles is called Spider-Man, he needs his own name at this point, and he needs to be separate or away from Peter Parker so he doesn't grow in his own shadow, you know? The fact that he's a fan of Peter is good, and he's not rude, and he's not, like, he wasn't created with hate or spite the way Riri Williams was created. Riri Williams, literally first panels in the comics are about how she thinks white people are bad, and she doesn't. I think Tony Stark, I think they retcon that later, but Tony Stark was like someone she wanted to compete with and all this kind of stuff. Whereas Miles Morales just looked up to Peter, which is definitely a lot more easier to digest and more admirable, you know? But yeah, Brian Michael Bendis, man, the laziest diversity creative in the world. And he's white, of course. Because, you know, a black person wouldn't just try and make a black version of Spider-Man. They would just do someone that really cares about art, like, you know, Ryan Coogler, who's been forced to do this because he's actually talented. And, you know, I get the most fun he's probably ever had was making Sinners, where it's something original, something he cares about, something he's passionate about, something that's his. And he's probably just contracted to do shit like this. That's not a challenge to him at all. That's not fun, and it's just riding on the coattails of what some white person did and acting like that's some kind of diversity when it's not. It's the laziest thing in the world. That's what liberal white people do that have white guilt, like Brian Michael Bendis.
The famous creative in the comic book world created a character, Riri Williams. A lot of people think that she's a successor to the Iron Man legacy, but in the comic book, Riri and Tony had a friendship. He was kind of advising her, and eventually she got her own identity as Ironheart.
A lot of people think she's the successor. They're trying to get away from that whole trope of she's a diversity version of a DI version of Iron Man or a DI version of Captain America. That's what he's saying there. And I see what they're trying to do, but I think it's too late for that, man.
It was really exciting for me bringing that character into the MCU and Wakanda Forever.
The story of Ironheart is not a story about the mantle of Iron Man getting passed. If anything, it's the opposite.
What the fuck does that mean? That's the worst thing I've heard.
Iron Man getting passed. If anything, it's the opposite.
The story of Ironheart is not the mantle of Iron Man getting passed. If anything, it's the opposite. Did you hear themselves? They basically just said, so what? She's stealing his stuff instead? What's the opposite? The mantle doesn't get passed. It's the only way you can say that's the opposite is that she's passed the mantle to him. I don't know. How is that? What does it even mean by the opposite? I don't know what he means by that. But yeah, she doesn't even mention Iron Man. I think she's trying to say that the story of Ironheart is taking Iron Man's stuff and making her own identity out of it. You can't do that. You can't sell a character like that. Maybe in real life, something like that could work. But when you're trying to tell a story with these characters that we love, it's not going to work with the audience. Unless you tell a really good story. That's the problem. There's no story.
About her proving herself and achieving her own legacy.
I'm very excited to get a heavy-hitting introduction.
It was really great to have Ryan as an executive producer. He really helped with the storytelling of Ironheart. The comic book and Wakanda Forever did a really great job of laying a backstory for Riri.
The brother's an executive producer. The executive producer in Hollywood don't do shit. Most times, executive producer is just a name that they attach onto something to either help it sell or to give the producer a credit because they've done something a favor for the company before. Executive producers rarely do much.
In her origin story.
That's what they're called, executive producers. The people that are actually doing the work is the producers, just producer. If you ever see someone called executive producer, they didn't do much.
In our series, we're telling the story of what happens the days after Wakanda in the formative years of the superhero.
What's cool about her is she's a bit disruptive.
You want me to be small, but I refuse.
Which really sets her apart.
You want me to be small, but I refuse. Can you imagine Tony saying that? And that's supposed to be the good thing that he's saying. When Tony started being good, it was when he said stuff like, I realized my weapons were hurting people and I need to put a stop to it. Taking accountability, taking responsibility, great power comes great responsibility. This just sounds like some ego trip thing. This is like, I'm tired of being weak. I'm tired of being small. I want to be great. I want to be iconic. I want to be the best. I want to be like, it's so ego driven. It's not about helping people. It's not about looking outside of yourself and sacrifice. It's not about any of those heroic things. It's just about just bigging yourself up and taking someone else's legacy. And it's so terribly sold.
I'm going to build something undeniable, something iconic.
Riri, I see you, waiting to be acknowledged for your greatness.
I'm very excited about Ironheart. I'm honored.
Maybe all that stuff is the bad stuff. Maybe all this, I want to build something, I want to be undeniable, I want to build something iconic. And then that bad guy comes in and says, I see you wanting to be acknowledged. Maybe she learns that, oh, that's not what this is about. Like, I shouldn't have been trying to just rub my ego. Maybe that's the character arc, but they're not showing that. They're showing that as if it's all positive stuff. And that's what trailers are supposed to do, to be honest, like to kind of give you a gist of what's going to happen, and then you just get surprised with the twist at the end that, oh, actually all this stuff that they showed in the trailer wasn't good, what she was saying, you know. But the issue with this is you have to already have the audience, you have to already kind of excite them for this before you can do twists like that. If that is the storyline, which I doubt, the way they should have cut the trailer was showing how she wants to be a hero, showing all the sacrifices, showing the positive sides of her character arc, because they kind of have to, because as Blade would say, they're trying to ice skate uphill, right?
I had an opportunity to be delivering these stories that people love so much.
Let's get to work.
Well, that is Ironheart and my thoughts on it. I'm begging you, Hollywood, please stop doing this, man. Just stop doing this. This isn't diversity. This isn't inclusion. This isn't representation. All of this is just laziness. I don't know what the goal is here. It's messing black people up, man. It's making us look so bad. Like, it's ruining the chance of us actually being represented properly, you know, this kind of shit here. And I think a lot of black people are starting to wake up to it now as well, you know, because I've been saying this for years. So I could see it for what it was. And I admit it stemmed mainly from my need as a nerd for things to be accurate to the source material. It stemmed from my need as a nerd for things to be made with passion and integrity and creativity, you know, rather than politics, I don't know, financial necessity or whatnot, you know, or financial incentive or bureaucracy. It came from my need of just good quality entertainment, you know, originally. The more I realized when I looked into the reason why I feel this way, where so many others didn't really, is because when you really think about it, you see how inauthentic it really is. And it's actually a lot deeper and darker than just wanting things to be authentic. You realize that because of the reasons why they're doing this, it's a detriment. Because people can see phoniness, they can smell phoniness, you know, and when they smell it, they reject it. And if they're rejecting things based on the fact that these people want to present more black people or more women or more minorities in the spotlight, we end up getting that brunt of the stick. The minorities do, the black people do, because when we get something genuinely good, genuine representation, you still have people talking trash about it because they end up mixing everything up into one big ball of just DEI, you know, when something like Sinners is good representation and something like this is trash representation. And there's still people that are going to put both together and see the same thing, both DEI, which is a massive shame. And I think that really affected like the character of Yasuke, for example, in Assassin's Creed, but I made a video on that, you can check that out. But anyway, that's my thoughts on all this. You can tell they've already kind of know this is bad, the way they've released this and brought it out. You can tell they don't believe in this. Still yet, the way they decide to cut this shows they still don't understand the reasons why they shouldn't believe in this. Because I'm sure they could have made a way better cut than, you know, trying to separate Riri from Tony Stark, thinking that'll make her more iconic. You know, she's still a copy of Tony Stark and Iron Man. And it's even worse now because she's not even acknowledging him, you know? At least what Cap, as much of a copy, as much of a hand-me-down character he's become with Sam Wilson taking over the reins, especially since he had to drop his own identity, at least he still has a connection to Captain America. At least the shield was passed to him, you know? It's not the passing of the mantle that's the issue. The issue has always been the reason why the person's taken over the mantle. And it's because it's not for storyline purposes. It's because of some kind of need to use a big name to help represent a black person. But you don't need to do it that way. What you do is take the black person and make him into a big name. That's what you're supposed to do. But, you know, that's a lot of work and they don't want to do work. They want the diversity representation points, but they don't want to work for it. And that's the problem. So black people watching this, think for a second. Do you want these people making diversity representation to do it in the laziest way possible or do it in the most effective way possible? Surely you want the effective way, right? That takes time, effort, you know, that takes creativity, takes passion, takes hiring the right people, not this bullshit where they just get the most liberal white person to write a black person and give themselves pats on the back. Anyway, that's my video. If you liked, please give me a like, subscribe, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you again soon. Peace.